It's now time for an enlightening and yet exciting panel discussion to understand artificial intelligence as a layer of knowledge and transparency. I would like to welcome our panelists today who have joined us from around the globe. Ms. Smriti Mishra, she's the head of artificial intelligence at Earthplank. We have joined us by Maham Shafiq, head of technical delivery at Data Pillar, and Zari Zara, chief product and technology officer and co-founder of Speckit. For today's panel discussion, I would also like to invite our moderator, Mr. Mesum Raza. Mesum is the founder of Karachi AI and chief trader at Lucid Data Analytics. By qualification, he's an Oxford Brookes Grad and an ACCA who turned his back on conventional practices and diverted his career along the lines of analytics and data mining. He has specialized in AI and machine learning and holds numerous community leadership positions in data analytics and AI space. Welcome, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Mesum, I would like you to take the panel discussion forward from here.
Thank you so much for the great introduction, and I welcome all the panelists herein. So just wanted to reiterate what the introduction was. I'm the founder of Karachi AI, so just wanted to take 2 minutes into the introduction. Do I have the rights to share the screen? Okay, thank you. Okay, so can you give me a quick feedback if everyone can see my screen?
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Zari. Okay, so Karachi AI is a premier community of artificial intelligence, and we have established it back in 2017 here in Karachi, Pakistan. It's a regional ambassadorship of City.ai, and we have been promoting data analytics, artificial intelligence, and the use of machine learning and eliminating all the use cases throughout our 4 years journey here in various universities and business communities here in Karachi. So we are an entire community of 10,000 people, and we have been working on 3 main agendas that I would be going through, and that's all the services what we are providing here locally in community. So these are three things I would reiterate is awareness, engagement, and empowerment. And what we are trying to work here. I'll be going very quick into the space. There's a good introduction to my team, myself. I have Ali Raza with us, Noman Khalid from Love for Data, Mustafa, Heather, and Mudassir, who are taking care of our community and different aspects, which is going up. Next, the thing is awareness. So by awareness, what we do is we do quarterly meetups. And these meetups are usually 30-minute talks of the speakers that are coming from various backgrounds from their practical experience, and they are sharing their experience around AI and machine learning and how they are using data-driven approaches in order to provide the personalized and most advanced cutting-edge technologies and experience for their customers, and they share the use cases. So we have been doing for various locations, ranging from the e-commerce to healthcare, from the finance perspective to any of the subjects that could be mattered. We have already provided all the content on our YouTube channel in the Urdu. That was a major contribution because a lot of things were not in AI for Urdu. So that was a major contribution we have done with. The next thing is to feature the startups that we have been working with. So these are some of the startups that have been featured with us. This is just a glimpse of what we do on on-site meetups. Unfortunately, it's a COVID period. And again, this conference has been done online. And for the past 1 year, we have been doing online quarterly meetups. However, for the 9 sessions before, we have been doing on ground. And this is just a glimpse of the local networking and on-ground meetups that we do. So coming to the second pillar of the work, what we have been doing in Karachi is engagement. That is a lot of contribution from the education perspective. We have provided a lot of curriculum that has enabled me, myself as a personal journey, because that was written into my introduction as well. I am not a conventional computer science graduate, so I have learned a lot from online courses. And what we have tried to do is to replicate those into local communities in the native language. So what we have enabled is an MOU with Coursera. We have enabled an entire online curriculum that gives a pathway for people to become a citizen data scientist, because there is a lot of demand that is coming into this. The world is changing and people need to have right skills in order to play with data. The second thing is KarachiDotAI is a kind of a community that actually enables you to keep learning, be associated with like-minded peoples, and keep learning with your, it's a Facebook group, so it's an outgrown. Finally, what we have done is a YouTube channel that has enabled people to learn things on their own pace, so they can stop and play and learn things at their own matter of time, and they could actually get enabled in the native language, that is Urdu. Finally, what we do is a kind of a certified professional academy. We have been trying to bridge the industry gap of the resources. So we have been building a different curriculum tracks for business professionals who need to come into data analytics, and those computer science professionals who need to come into data science and analytics. We have been doing a quick overview, and these are some of the upcoming specializations we are working over it. So this is the whole entire scope what we have been working our heart out in order to produce advanced curriculum and analytical education here in Karachi. This is one of the glimpses of industry academia partnership. We are finally partnered with FAST University in this certified data analyst, a data science course. Then in terms of database expert, we are also obliged to thank here 10 Pulse as well for the support in this program, and certified data engineer as well, a cloud native course, which was a kind of a challenge for us, but I'm sure with the support of the community, we would be able to bring it more forward. Finally, the last pillar is empowerment. What we do is we team up with like-minded communities, just like Temples is initiating this AI Summit for the second time. We have been part of the first one and the second one as well. So we appreciate the thing. One of the things that was missing in the empowerment section was the students and the academic and the people who had the data analytics background were finding difficulty in order to find the right roles in the industry. So we created Karachi AI Opportunity Circle. That is a platform for people to get engaged with the industry opportunities. So we have a team of volunteers that works throughout the week in order to shortlist the roles in data analytics and put ups on the board, and people get hired from there. So this is an entire association of industry and academia we have partnered with, and together what we are very, very excited. From past 4 years, we have been able to do this, and I'm sure in the next 5 years, we will be able to ace and produce more data analytics talent here in Karachi. So just a glimpse, what we have been able to achieve is like 13 quarterly meetups, a large community, a lot of trained professionals, and a name in the global space. So we have been ranked #1 on the City AI channel, and that's a proud for Pakistan that we have been producing a great content for the entire world. Again, thank you very much for listening patiently about this initiative, and I would love that you would be involved into this whole initiative by visiting our website and community spaces. And again, coming back to the businesses, and thank you for the panelists to be awaited. Can you just give me a second to stop my screen? Okay, so so I can see Samriti here on the screen. Okay, so just from a quick one from the organizers, do have been panelists being be introduced by the people, or panelists would take their own chance to introduce themselves?
Hi, Mesum. So you can definitely give them the opportunity, but if you have anything for them, so you can go ahead with that.
Okay, so I think let's let them personalize themselves and introduce one by one, and then we will start the panel. So again, first I would like to invite Ms. Zara to introduce herself to the panel.
Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me here. I am the co-founder and chief product and technology officer at Speckit. We are a hybrid US Pakistani company with product dev teams that are spread across Denver and Karachi and all of the continental US. What we do is basically being a layer of contextual knowledge on top of all your tools and applications to deliver enablement, change, and ramp increasing information to employees directly in their workflow, working with go-to-market teams. These are typically sales and success teams that are on the front lines for mid-size enough businesses, typically in fast-growing tech environments. So really an enablement platform that lives in your workflow and enables you to work smarter. And so yeah, that's me. And of course, I'm originally from Pakistan and grew up here and went to the US. So again, I'm a hybrid as well, just like Speckett. And happy to chat here with the rest of the panelists.
Thank you very much, Zari, for your introduction. Next, I would move to Samriti. Please introduce yourself to the...
So hello, it's really nice to meet everyone. And I'm currently the head of artificial intelligence at Earthbank, where we work towards using using artificial intelligence, remote sensing, other 4.0 industry tools to battle climate change. So also making AI more transparent and available to people, which is a very which is a key focus of the discussion today. Other than that, I have done a couple of projects in healthcare, and yeah, I'm also a really big fan and also contributor and advocate for open source information. Also, I really think that it's very important to make sure that it's available in the native language, because that's a problem that many people face. And language shouldn't be a barrier when you're trying to learn a new technology. So I really love this initiative, and I'm really happy to be here and meet all the other panelists and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Samriti. And finally, I would like to invite Ms. Maham Shafiq to introduce herself to everyone.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hope you are enjoying the session. This is Maham. I'm the Director of Operations Square. So first, Mesum, I want the confirmation that are you guys able to hear me properly or not, since I'm having a bit of flu and throat infection?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm the Director of Operations Square and the Head of Technical Delivery of Data Pillar. So basically, Data Pillar is a UK-based company. We have started the offshore here in Pakistan, named as Square. If I talk about the tech stack, mostly we are working toward AI and machine learning services, and the industry sector with which we are working is mostly the legal sector and the financial sector. Our AI-powered chatbots are serving to lawyer firms where it has been handling many of the cases and some different operations. It's performing automatically, and also I am the active part of the many of the communities, such as I have been working as a chapter lead at Women in Data last year, and have been part of Women Tech Network recently. So, we started Square in Pakistan with the vision of promoting technology and bringing our UK-based solution here in Pakistan and promoting the tech talent, since Pakistan has a lot of talent that is looking for AI and machine learning related opportunities. So hope we are looking forward to have an amazing session, and thank you TechPulse for inviting me for this session and having such a great having me as a part of this panel along with Smriti and Zaridara. It will be a very good session, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maham. And I'm sure I have got intelligent people on board, and we would be having an exciting panel discussion forward. So today's topic is more about what transparency matters in AI and what is AI doing as a layer of knowledge for the entire world, and how AI has enabled transformation of the personalization and hyper things that we are seeing today. And there's a lot of innovation behind, and the AI, we can say that AI has actually enabled a lot of things that were never thought to be possible before. So moving on, I would first like to cater the topic of the transparency, and would like to go first on the topic in more of pointer method. So let's go for the explainability of the AI, and let's have a view around this. So let me frame a question for you, Zari, first, that how critical is the kind of the explainability of the results that matters for the Speckett and in your personal experience for AI, how important it is to have an explainable result for your clients and to explain what and how AI is producing this magic and what's the science behind.
Maham, I don't know if you wanted to take this one first. I think Maham is much better suited to it, but from my perspective, which is really an application perspective, frankly, I work with teams that are very, very close to, they're revenue generating teams, right? So if you've ever worked with a salesperson, you know there is no way I can tell them a data point without them double clicking and double clicking and double clicking and questioning you and asking you and challenging you to actually try to understand what are the lessons and learnings. I think part of what I think is, I think it's absolutely critical, of course, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that is a very diversified question. If first I will talk about it in a general and then specifically with a client. So in the past 2 to 5 years, we have seen there have been a lot of negative things roaming around the world about artificial intelligence. Even one of the famous tech entrepreneur has even said that AI is more dangerous than a nuclear weapon. So we can how we can make this a more clearer. So transparency is the only way. While we are promoting our product, our services, we keep all of the the black box open to everyone so they can better understand that this is nothing something dangerous. So we are living in the tech disrupted world where we can see even a kid and under 15-year-old are also coming up with the AI prototypes, and we have many universities that are offering degree in AI, but there are some tech stack that are pretty much explainable, such as semantic learning and algorithm planning. But there are some machine learning models that are mostly data driven and they are still black box. And it is sometimes become very difficult to explain and justify that how we achieve this result. So this can be only be possible through transparency in AI. When we know the internal working of the model, then we can better understand the results and we know what is the formal process which let us make this kind of decision, and by like what outcomes our model take to come up to that particular decision. And transparency in terms of when we are talking to our client. So most of the times that the client are afraid of using adopting AI. People are talking about AI and this word is roaming around everywhere, but some of the businesses are still unable to adopt that AI because of these negative thoughts. And once we started explaining it more clearer to our client and we will becoming more transparent to the client, then this gap would be going to reduce very much.
Okay, great. Zari, would you like to add? I was going through a server from Kaggle, and I was amazed to see, despite being a lot of innovation done in AI, and especially in the deep learning side, being enabled by the hardware, and a lot of big models for BERT and GPT-3, and there are a lot of models that are actually well performing, but are a kind of a black box that they can't explain and cannot reproduce in order to, and the business need consistency and explainability on how we could achieve the same revenue another time in another year. And the AI has to be a lot of explainable. So I was going through and I saw a lot of search that still, and going forward, I was seeing a lot of algorithms being used at a basic level, like businesses prefer decision tree and random forest more rather than a strong deep learning model that is enabling a 90%, 95% accuracy, right? So business need to have a 60, 65% accuracy, but rather have an explainability and comfort with the data we have. So I think, thank you, Maham, for putting the stress on how to cover the black box and explain your models to your customers. And enable the adoption of AI in businesses for the specific use cases that are revenue generating. I think the next question comes for the AI is, if you understand, sorry, someone.
Sorry, I was just going to say one thing to add as well. Of course, I'm putting my product hat on, so you're talking to a product person, but really one thing to add is when you think about AI, it is not something there is this propensity for businesses to put the entire department into its own silo, and then it becomes sort of like a consultant instead of really treating it like a part of the product. And just like any other product, having your business stakeholders involved from the beginning, having them understand, okay, what are we optimizing for? What is the model optimizing for? And I think, like, in my experience, like, that is what's helped us get rid of some of that discomfort with the black box outcomes a little bit more, because if you're involved in the earlier goals, just like any other product, you are able to, you know what it's optimizing for. You've been on that journey. So I think some of this is actually selling and incorporating AI instead of like having it be this like siloed thing. And that's really what we're trying to do, is like have a squad for it, have dedicated people for it, and have it be incorporated, at least from the product engineering perspective, into our mainstream, instead of it being this like outlier that sometimes comes in and consults for us, and that we sometimes use for certain projects, right? In terms of the team members. That was just my 2 cents.
I think a wonderful point shared, and absolutely I would agree that I think this is where the business graduates can play their role, and in order to translate their requirements, because apart from the CS graduates, it's a general reality that they have a different thinking, and the business graduates have a lot of different thinkings, right? They think from the business perspective and have a knack to explain the CEO or the CFO or the COO who is looking into the model results. And I think this is the role where business people can play. So they need to first learn how AI works and then come into the play and to explain what's going on. So I think well done point. Let's come to think for the audience to understand how AI works. So AI is more about the experience that the machine gets through it, right? How, if I could explain for the participants and how AI works, is more like this: how we teach a toddler what is a car and what is a bike, right? So if we give some examples for a bike, is 2-wheelers is kind of a bike, and a 4-wheeler is kind of a. So this is how we teach our toddlers to learn it and experience. So now the perspective is AI needs a lot of experience, and this experience comes from a vast amount of the data, right? So this data could be very much unmonitored and could be biased as well. So now coming to the topic of the biasness, how the model is being trained. Either it was some of the, I'm not taking the name of some of the companies who have been into the headlines for producing the bias models, but you can guess, and they have been training gender bias models or racial bias models, and these are a lot of things that have been not to the agenda of actually training into, but there is a lot of things that have been going through unmonitored and unrealized that goes into the AI, and then the outcome comes in. Even those large models such as GPT-3 are becoming more biased when you give them a lot of different questions from the different verticals. So coming to the specific topic, I'm sure the context is now clear. I would like to go to the question again, Zari, that how critical it is for AI to be monitored for the bias, and how have you experienced and catered in your customer journeys and product journeys to negate this bias?
I'm going to bump this one to Maham again, because I think Maham's the expert, and I'll go second.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Now I'm going to take the lead.
Yeah, sure. I can start. So bias can be creeped into to our AI models or systems very easily by the data which we feed into the system. As Mesum has also mentioned, there's very examples of different companies who has tried different model. I would going to highlight one of the model that they have used for hiring, and that was banned. And the reason of failing of that model was the data on which it was trained, because the company has all of the previous employees were mostly, they are males. So the model has learned the trend and said it's actually started ignoring the women's and starting to giving favor to men while hiring them. So it all depends on what kind of data we are giving to the model. So when our model would be transparent, we got to know that what is happening inside that model, and we do a proper validation. We cannot do any validation until or unless we know about the model. So here come both the things. The data which we feed, it must not be biased, and the system, we should also know that what actually it is doing and what kind of result it's producing. So by continuous monitoring and validating, like it's kind of opening that black box again. And there are multiple tools that are available. I recently read about Deloitte has developed some AI powered tool that is used for validating that kind of black box that help in decision making, and knowing about like it is helping people to explain their AI model more to their customers or employees, and defining that on what basis that model has performed or make any particular decision. So again, the transparency is playing an important role to handle this bias thing. Until unless we are not going to open that black box of our model, we will not able to validate it and know how it's performing. Is it taking into account any bias or not? So that's all. Anything
Absolutely.
else
Thank
that
you.
you want to add?
Thank you,
Yeah, I
ma'am.
think Maham's absolutely, sorry, I was just going to say, so Maham, I think you're absolutely right. So, okay, what is the model? To your point, there's data and then there's the actual model. But the model, just like the model up here, it basically uses what is available. That's historical data, right? And when we talk about biases, right, those things weren't considered biases, say 5 years ago, maybe even 1 year ago, maybe 10 years ago, right? And so just like the human mind, I would say, it would almost say, for almost the way we approach hiring, is to assume it's biased. Assume it's biased. Assume there is a level of bias in there. Now, what is the bias? I think like that is to Maham's point, what you need to parse out and basically correct for going forward, because I think not being prepared for that is like what has led to certain situations at certain companies. And so it's honestly, it's basically, the model will reflect us, right? It will reflect what we have put out there, whether it's as humans, into the interwebs, into whatever data set we put in. And since we are biased, that model will be biased. It sort of applies, if you ever think about like scaling engineering orgs, there's all this theory around how your actual org and your architecture start reflecting and mirroring each other. So it's a similar sort of thing. So I would almost say like that, it's really a value judgment and a call that you have to make at some point, that going forward, we're going to look out for those biases. We're actually going to like deduce and look out for those biases and then exclude them. And I think it has to be proactive rather than reactive, which is like, oh, maybe the data will have a bias. Let's just assume that it's going to have, every data set is going to have some element of bias, especially humans, I would say, in particular. Anything that has to do with hiring, anything that has to do with subjective evaluation, that's just data point after data point just evaluates that, just validates that. So we just need to be prepared for it. Otherwise, what we're saying is we're replicating our biases, right? And we're giving them fire and making them exponentially worse, quote unquote. So I think, yeah, it's very important. Just like it's so. Anyways, I feel very passionately about that. So as you can tell, but yeah, really happy to see how Maham and actually Smriti and I were talking about it as well. I really liked emerging as leaders, because again, it's a value judgment, and what you need is more people to actually like champion that. And typically, diversity spurs more diversity. So as we have more women in tech, and we have more people of color, we have more diversity, there will be more voices that actually speak up. And are like, well, let's just assume it's biased, because where is it coming from, right? Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so sounds like an encoded message given by Zari in the talk herself. So I would like to add 2 things to it from my perspective and experience. The one is moving towards the explainability and to tackle the bias. There's a lot of things done from the open source community to make the models more explainable and relatable from the perspective what is going in, what is coming out, and that adds to a lot of value to understand the models, how it is becoming the bias, right? Another thing that Andrew Ng recently did a lot of campaign for the data-centric models in order to, rather than going for the accuracy and from the engineering perspective, rather than going to the data-centric approaches, that to understand your data first and then come out to the performance of the AI. So I think these initiatives with the global leaders would actually enable a lot of people to get into why and reduce the biases, because I think it is essentially very, very important, because recently Google published a white paper for the models that consume other models, right? So we currently we have a lot of machine learning models that are made targetedly specifically for handling a specific task. But world is moving towards the more complex models that can actually handle more tasks. For that, they have that enabled that they get a consortium of models that can transfer their learning into a single model and whenever the things up. So I think bias is very, very important to tackle from the ground up, so that these larger models don't bring these biases into their play. So I think, thank you, Zari, for adding the insightful age. And the next, I would like to come into the specific question for the reproduction of the values, like the reproducibility of the AI models, because a lot of transparency is related to how you can reproduce the results. So I would like to go with an opening question for Samriti in this entire conference, is how reliable performance and reproducibility is very critical for the businesses to adapt AI and get confidence on the models.
So thank you. First of all, the discussion so far have been so amazing, and this is a very important question. So I definitely think AI has to be reliable and replicable. And when it comes to reliability, for example, I think it's important in everything in life because it determines a value in thing, right? It creates some sort of trust that you need to do anything, basically. So, and like if you perform some results and the results aren't consistent, then you can't really proceed with that particular thing. So it's probably not too different when it comes to AI. And it's just like you're like spending months, sometimes years working on something. You invest a lot of time, effort, energy. AI is probably the most expensive field right now that people are working in. So you invest a lot of money in those researchers or data scientists or anything. So you definitely need something that can be used forward, because if you start creating different applications for every single small thing, like if I create a model, like I can give an example of how like I work, or like sort of like a small example from there. So what we do is if you have like a small like plot of land where someone's doing farming or forestry. So if you're practicing some sustainable methods, then you can get your land verified for the amount of carbon that you have been sequestering in that area, and you can get paid for that. So, and some other company who's emitting a lot of carbon, they'll buy carbon credits off of you, and they pay maybe like 5 to 10 euros per ton of carbon based on how much social impact you have and like other factors. So when it comes to that, I can't like make a model that works only in Peru and doesn't work in Africa, because in that case, it just doesn't make sense. I wasted like 3 months for nothing. So it has to be adjustable for different, we use satellite data as a input and some drone data, etc. So it has to be adjustable. Like I can easily tune it to using different resolutions of data, using different satellite bands, adding some other type of input. So it has to be like replicable. That's really important. Also, if I get like 500 trees in one time and 700 trees the other time, no one's going to believe it, and it's all going to go to waste. So currently the problem with the whole solution, the whole thing that's happening is right now that entire verification process, it's manual. So if you have a land in Peru, someone from Texas will fly with a measuring tape in their hand, and they'll come and measure the height and girth of maybe 2% of the tree, of the forest, and they'll extrapolate it statistically to the entire thing. So this makes it pretty unreliable. Like if there's forest fire, if deforestation, no one's going to take that into account. So no one really knows if the amount of carbon that they're investing in, it's actually going for the right cause or not. So it harms the trust and reputation a lot. And that is like one of the reasons why there's a lot of problem in this whole commodity, like carbon commodity in the first place. So I think artificial intelligence is doing a really good job here, in my opinion. So what we do is, as I said, we have a partnership with European Space Agency, so we can get satellite images from them, high resolution. And that whole process used to happen every 3 to 5 years. So now we can do it every 6 months. And if there's some sort of discrepancy that we may know of, or we think something might be going on, then it can even we can even monitor it every 5 days, the entire area. So it's scalable, it's more transparent, like people can geotag the location and everything. So I think it's really important. Also, when you think of something like healthcare, right? Scalability, reliability, especially consistency, the lack of black box, it plays such an important role, even when it comes to some financial applications. You don't want to like transfer a lot of money and then figure out that something happened to it midway. So it's obviously like super important, especially I think, in my opinion, it becomes more important when you are working towards some bigger cause, in a way, like something that actually matters a lot, like outside of one person or something. So yeah, it has to be really like, once I worked on a project with for a shoulder arthroplasty project with some senior MDs in Switzerland, and we worked on decision tree model first, and then eventually we worked on a CNN model, convolutional neural network. So as you were mentioning earlier, Mesum, it was pretty much the same thing. We couldn't, although we got like almost 96.8% accuracy or something around that in the CNN model, we could not deploy it because there was no proper explanation, and it wasn't clear to the doctors as of why it's happening, and they can't. Also, there are some rules when you like want to deploy, like some government rules. So because of those, like data governance rules, so because of those certain conditions, it wasn't like deployable. So there are all these things that we have to really take in mind. So yeah, thank you for the discussion, and it's nice that people know about it.
Okay, absolute pleasure, Samriddhi. And I think the whole panel is a lot of enlightened people coming from the various backgrounds with good experience. So they are actually catching up your conversation. Thank you so much, everyone. And we have got a very, very short time, like have a marathon of like next 15 minutes. So let's have a quick discussion on the remaining topics. And the last one I want to go into the transparency and highlight the recent developments in AI is the misuse. So let's come to the topic of ethical consideration in AI and how, what kind of an extent we should go morally to extend the power of AI and use it for the humanity or against the humanity, how it works. So let's discuss the concept of around the deepfakes, the autonomous AI man-powered vehicles, and these concepts that are leveraging AI in its core, but against the ethical and moral responsibilities what humans should adopt. So what are your thoughts? I think first I would like to go to Maham and then come back to Zari.
Yeah, deepfake is another most powerful technology that has been developed in AI. It's pretty amazing, as well as it's pretty harming or damaging. So there are both two kind of picture. So those who are not aware what deepfakes is, I would like to highlight a little because we have very short time. So what about you get realistic looking images and videos and audios of the person who actually hasn't done it. So yeah, it looks exciting, but it can be kind of blackmailing or subjugating. These kind of things are also involved, which are ethically wrong. This is relevant to deepfake, and previously that issue was raised very much, that how to avoid, how we can find out the authenticity of these kind of videos and audios. So again, the solution is also lie in AI. So AI again involved where the AI models can inherently identify what are the they can verify the authenticity of the fakes, what are the real one and what are the fake ones. And about the AI weapon, if I talk about that, I recently read a study where I find out that US has spent around $18 billion in 2016 to 2020 for developing AI based autonomous weapons. But again, this is kind of damaging and threatening to the world, and so the human right organization are still implicating the they're not allowing them to use it publicly. So I think we can control these things at organizational level, where there should be a proper check over these kind of things, that we are monitoring to all of the development, that whatever we are developing is not harming the people. It should help them rather than making their life more terrible. So that's what I want. Smriti, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think that was explained really well. One thing that I would like to add is like how it all begins, right? If people are more transparent and clear about the ways they collect data, I think we could solve or target at least a lot of the problems around ethics. And then obviously around how it's used
Yes.
and everything. But there's been a lot of data that's been collected and we don't even know about it. So yeah, I think that's probably where we might want to take a look at to begin the whole process.
Okay. Thank you, Samriti, and thank you for pointing that out, Zari. I just missed the tick mark. Okay, so now coming back to the knowledge thing, that the second part of the panel discussion is AI as a layer of knowledge. So we would be discussing the impact of AI when it comes to a lot of use cases, and these people would be excited to share a lot of their experiences. So coming to first thing, that is AI is a kind of an enabler of a lot of personalization today we see, and was not conventionally possible with the if then else programming or conventional programming. And that hyper personalization at scale has been enabled by what we can say, the wirings of AI. And let's take a perspective of how Amazon is able to do a lot of personalization when it comes to changing the experience of buying. And then now it has become a norm that a website that doesn't implement a recommendation system is not being adopted or shopped from, right? So this is the entire lifestyle change, and the consumer way has been changed, that the thing must be personalized. And obviously personalization is a lot of supported by AI. So I would like to take the perspective of Maham and Zari on personalization, and would like to know how Speckit is using the personalization aspect, and what other products they have been seeing for how AI is personalization. So first I would like to go with Zari and then Maham, please. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Can you hear me now?
Absolutely, yes.
Great. Awesome. So, well, I can certainly speak to how we use it here at Speckit and the value of it in particular. So stepping back, right? You and I, all of us, every day we open up our computer, right? What do? We log into all the work tools that we use every day. It might be your Slack, might be your Salesforce if you're a sales rep, might be a host of other tools that you're using, different for an AI researcher than a sales rep, but regardless, there's a stack, right? And when it comes to go-to-market teams in particular, these are the people on the front lines that we're trying to enable and make their jobs easier, faster. So this is, again, AI not as a replacement, right? AI as an enabler for high-value knowledge workers, right? How can we get them to be better at their work, better at their jobs, better at performing, and actually driving business KPIs? That is basically the challenge that Speckit helps solve for. In order to do that, there's multiple layers of it. There's basically art in your workflow, because Speckit basically delivers everything contextually in your browser, wherever you are. So app A versus app B. Where are you in terms of tenure as an employee, right? Where are you in terms of your department? There's just a bajillion different ways in which people navigate, use these tools on a day-to-day basis. And again, like going back to how we use AI and how we want to improve the personalization of what an employee sees at what point. The whole idea is that right now, learning, training, like if you've ever learned anything in the workplace off a PDF, off an old school LMS, you know what I'm talking about. Learning feels like an obstacle rather than an enabler to your job. And really what we're trying to do is break that. In order to break that, we need to make it, one, hyper contextual and hyper relevant to where you are, so that just like we're used to your point, like just the way we are used to learning in our day-to-day lives, we're used to learning on the go. We're used to shopping and getting recommendations. We're used to watching Netflix and getting recommendations, right? So the mission here at Spectate is how can we take how people are used to learning, how the human brain is wired to learn, and really use that to drive productivity in the workplace. So whether it's, say, for example, as an employee, as a sales rep, right? I am selecting a competitor from a given list in my CRM tool, right? And immediately based on basically the season, because sales is very seasonal, based on the locale of the competitor, what we know about it, based on how other reps who have basically done similar deals and done them well in the past have performed. All this data can be actually used to give very hyper-targeted learning. And then I think the other aspect of it is that, again, humans learn differently. And so how can we use AI to be able to tune to, hey, this is how Smriti learns. Smriti is a visual learner. And we're able to deduce that from her actions, right? And this is how other visual learners have learned, versus this is how Zari learns. She likes 3 bullets and she's not going to read beyond the 3rd bullet, you know? And so that is the level of personalization that I think is super exciting for us to be able to deploy, because it impacts you on your day-to-day in sort of your digital space and time, which is basically your computer when you open up for work every day.
Okay, wonderful sharing your thoughts, and I think we are close on time. So the next for as AI as a layer of knowledge is being able to if we could actually reflect on the past data, right? I was seeing a video that till 1999 or 2000, the vast amount of data was mostly around stored and structured data, right? And after the dawn of 2000 and coming from the web, there is a lot of coming data from unstructured data as well, in form of videos, from the reviews and different things. And we would like to collect everything out in order to make a decision about the business. A couple of days ago, in one of my talks to some of the students, I was telling them how AI is enabling the decision making. So I was discussing the old story of one of my elders that why would you go to that store? And people would say that this is the guy who keeps care of my things. And obviously every time he brings up the right goods to me, so I go to this shop and not that shop, right? So this is a kind of like, when it comes to, we had a kind of like a shop in Gali Mohalla. So what we could say that these shops and these decisions were very small based on a very small number of customers and very small amount of data, right? Still the same things prevail, and AI is enabling this scalable information to govern the global scale, right? Now coming from that Kiryana shop to again coming to the Facebook, right? Now Facebook needs to make a decision for 1 million people, right? Well, who is having a fake account, or who is hosting inappropriate content or a picture, right? So this could not be done on a manual work basis, and could not be hiring a force of humans and aliens together to read the comments out, right? So I think this is the theme that I wanted to discuss and put forward the question to Samriti, that how do you think the scalable data engineering and AI are coming together to tackle this large data problem? And AI is actually enable these scalable decisions that were small decisions and coming to the big stage.
Yeah, so I think you already gave some really good examples to understand it in layman terms. So like I would maybe just pick it up from there, and I can also give a short example of how we use it. So like I think like predicting customer churn, for example, is a really good example. Like if you work in Netflix, you want to understand how many people you're going to, like how many people would be subscribed to your service the next month or not. So like AI is a really good example of that, how it can use the previous data that's maybe collected over a couple of years and you use it. And this also just doesn't only let you predict if they're going to leave or not. You have enough time to make sure if you want to re-engage with them, if you want to give them some perks like 50% off, 20% off, like everything that happens, it's based on AI. If you want to speak to them, like you want to re-engage and make sure that they stay, if they're on the verge of leaving. So doing these things, like if you work in a shop in the Gali Mohalla, then you would just like speak to them, right? But in this case, you're able to do it to millions of people at once using technology. So that's pretty much it, I think. And so how we use it is that the whole process that I explained earlier of when you want to sell your carbon credits. In that case, when it happened manually, it was pretty expensive because imagine people flying from place X to place Y and all that. So what happened is it made it extremely expensive, also exclusionary. So can you imagine how many people weren't able to weren't able to avail the whole carbon sequestration thing earlier because it was manual? So it was 500 million small landholders all across the world who weren't able to be a part of it. So now when you use like satellite images and everything, there's no cost for ground truthing, there's no flying cost, there's no staying cost. There's like a lot of things that's that you can avoid here or eliminate actually. So now earlier, the minimum land size required was around 1,200 acres. Now it's not even 1 acre, it's like 0.006 acres or something when you use technology, put technology into this picture. So I think like that maybe gives a really good example. And I know we're short on time, so maybe we can go to the next question.
Okay. So I had the next question in my mind, how AI is enabling the human productivity. And I am talking about the collective human productivity, but I would like to, instead of turning into the question, we could call it as a closing remarks from each of the perspectives, and then we could close this panel instead. So I had an idea that AI has actually enabled the humans in order to do something more better than they had been doing before, right? Just giving an example, like how automation has changed the way people noted the ledgers. Now ERP does that, right? So we don't have the right, we don't need to hire the resources to fill in the ledgers, and we are doing more productive work for ERPs to do, right? Now, from moving to the data analytics perspective, today ERPs are churning automated data insights and analysis, so people don't have to do a lot of descriptive work, and they could actually force work on the analytical part and the decision making that actually matters into, right? It's not about how many hours you spend in the data engineering and getting the data for your entire Jupyter notebook. It always depends on the last pie chart that you made from it, right? So it's always about the insights and information that you bring in. So AI is actually automating the entire stuff that was kind of a boring or not much productive for the humanity as a race. So we could actually say that AI has enabled us to do more better and focus on more important tasks for the humanity to take over rather than doing like repetitive stuff. So this is the whole idea that I had, and I have closed my remarks on the same topic, and I would like every one of you to give a final conclusion on the same. Zari, please, you should take the lead.
Absolutely. I know we're short on time here, so I'll keep it brief, but I think there's two aspects to it: productivity and how basically I do think AI is the frontier in terms of being a completely, and that is now going to become the norm. If as a business, as a software application, as anything that has to do with making employees productive, if you're not deploying AI to actually help with decision making, and what's more, actual product, powering actual product decisions and actual product features, you're probably working harder, not smarter. And I think working smarter is really where the benefit of AI comes, and exactly where, so helping businesses actually focus their product engineering efforts in the right area is one place. Helping sales teams, for example, know how to speak better and speak to their value propositions, like the chorus and gongs and other other coaching tools that are out there. And I think that's just an exciting way for AI to grow beyond the chatbot. And chatbots are great, don't get me wrong. No, to grow beyond that chatbot, but to be true, like a true enabler for humans and for human productivity.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zari. Coming to Maham and then coming to Samriti. Maham, please.
Yes, I agree with this point of Zari. I just want to give a concluding remark that being a company, as an organization level, we should be more transparent to our customer and clients to bring a lot of good revolution in AI science, so that more people start involving and adopting AI in their businesses.
Thank you, Maham. Last comment from Samriti.
Yeah, so actually what Zari was mentioning, AI is definitely helping a lot with, bridging the gap between your information and what's out there, like that gap, what you're thinking and how it can actually work in the real-time environment. In a way that it generates profit for the company, like it can avoid losses in multiple ways, like predicting if your systems are fine, like and understanding your customers. I think understanding your customer is always the key, like when it comes to anything. So, or understanding your audience, like whichever way you want to put it. Another thing is that, when you think of the whole COVID-19 vaccine, like there itself, AI played such an important role. Like it usually takes 12 years for to generate a vaccine, but in this case, it came out like within 2 years, and it wouldn't have been possible without using artificial intelligence and technology. So avoiding those repetitive tasks is really the key to change anything you want. So yeah, I think that would be a remark from me.
Thank you so much, Simriti. And again, I have left a comment in order to connect the whole panel on the professional network as well. So we could actually host you again in the next Karachi AI sessions in the quarterly meetups sooner. And again, thank you very much, Maham, Zari, and Samriti for joining this panel. I really, really enjoyed the brightest mind here. And I think that would be a good gesture to close the remarks. And let's take a selfie with a thumbs up. Okay, so I'm done with the selfie. I'll share with the 10 and thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mesum, for being such an amazing moderator for this whole discussion and, helping us extract a lot of insights and information from all three of them, Smriti, Maham, and Zari. So thank you so much for that.